Megalopolis. That's right, folks. It's time to talk about it. It's finally here. 40 years in the making. We finally get to see one of those unproduced films that has been literally written about in books about how it's never going to be a film that exists. Well, it exists now, folks. Megalopolis. Francis Ford Coppola makes his triumphant return to the movies. It's been a while. For good reason. They don't make his type of films anymore, and he's a guy who's very particular and meticulous. So when it comes to that, the current state of Hollywood, you're not going to get a lot of your projects produced, and this is a clear example of that. This is a self-financed movie. He put a lot of his own money into this thing. $120 million for this movie. That is specifically his dream and something he has been thinking about for a long time. So that is kind of interesting. Now this film, I think it premiered at Cannes this year, and there was some mixed reaction to it, which of course there's gonna be. A self-produced film by a crazy director. What are you going to expect? A normal movie? This is not a normal movie. And I think coming out of its initial reactions from some festivals is a lot of, it's either super pretentious or super earnest, and you have people who are in defense of it, you have people who are opposed to it. It's such one of those things, and it might be a clear example of it in today's day and age of talking about movies, where you either love it to death or it's the most pitiful experience to ever come to film. I went to see it. I had to. And I was very dumbfounded by a lot of the stuff that was going on in this movie, but I also was very supportive to its message and how it was portraying itself, and found myself drawn to specific moments. Now, it's not a good movie. There is a lot of interesting choices made in various levels of filmmaking, whether it's telling an actor how to read a line, or editing a clip that doesn't feel like it should exist here. It definitely feels like a guy was either running out of time or budget to make this thing, so sequences and scenes feel lost. We don't really see that anymore, We don't see that on this scale or any capacity. It's not good, so that's probably why we don't see it, right? I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of other reviews. I've read reviews from the people I follow who were either for it or against it, and that's kind of my baseline for this. But when it comes to people on this forum talking about this film, I haven't seen other people talking about it. I don't want to just fall into the trap of saying the normal stuff that comes for a movie like this. Oh man, I can't believe how bad these choices are, how ugly it is. It's a terrible film. I have seen worse films this year. I have had worse times watching a movie. I have had worse experiences talking about a movie. At the very least, what this film did for me, and I think for a lot of people that either enjoy it or don't, it gives you something to think about and gives you something to talk about. And that is unfortunately not something a large majority of an audience wants to do. People don't want to think about stuff. They want to go to a movie to escape. So when you're presented with this thing that is just confronting you head on with its earnestness and its idea and how it wants to present itself, that is hard. And when all of the ideas are out there in some really large spectacle, it's hard to really capture your mind to that, because you're just kind of staring at everything it's throwing at you. It's good when art makes you think, or just leaves you in a state that you're not comfortable with, that shows that there is something that is challenging for you to grasp. Now, this might not be the piece of art that does that, because I do understand why people hate this. For me, I just can't sit back and say this is abysmal or a failure, because this is a movie that this guy wanted to make. And Francis Ford Coppola, love him or hate him, I like his movies. Don't like some of the stuff he did to the extras on this movie, but this was a passion project. And to get that old in your career and be able to finish your final word on film itself, or your life, not everybody gets to do that. So spending your own money to finally have like this saying, this send-off for this thing you love. It's kind of cool. I appreciate it on that level. I think it's like pretty interesting. And I don't think this film is like vindictive or hateful or spiteful to the industry or the state of the world. It kind of wants to talk about current era politics and like this social media sensation. But it's also very sincere and very sweet. The movie is kind of about how through dark times we can always find the light. There's always another thing to reach out for. It's a very hopeful ending. Even in the times of darkness, you can crawl out of it and make a better world for your child or just for tomorrow. And that's kind of nice. And it's also a movie about like a guy who loves his wife. And I think that is really cool. Whatever level that is for Francis, I don't know. Like, he dedicated this film to his wife, which is cool to see. They were a great couple who worked together for a long time. And I think this film is evocative of a man who wants to leave behind a legacy, even if he's not remembered for that legacy. What he wants to do is show you how the world can be better or be changed. And on a metatextual level, that is about like a man trying to fix the film industry through how it's been corrupted recently, or how you need like a love and a creativity and a muse to really involve yourself in what you're doing for your passions. It's like, that's cool. That's a fun idea. Just like the frame that you built that around is very ugly and loud and kind of stupid and not fully formed. So that sucks, but I appreciate what you're going for here. Like, that is an interesting thought experiment. And perhaps this execution just isn't the best execution of that. But I can't think of a better example of what you're doing here. Like, you clearly wanted to talk about the Roman Empire and how incestuous and like travesty ensues around every corner. It's kind of, you know, how these empires die because of the people that build them, and like they're just random acts of chaos and everything like that. Or how we never have enough time, but when we find love, there is time in our lives. It's all there. It's all convoluted. It is a fable. Like, this movie presents itself as a fable. So things are going to look dreamlike. There's going to be literal shots that are just metaphorical interpretations of what a character is seeing. And they're going to talk in Shakespeare and quote Marcus Aurelius and all that stuff, and just have intense moments of passion and hate and stuff like that. And it's crazy. And it's like hard to focus or care about any of that when the edits are so quick and have literal scenes that drag off into nothing, or weird cutaways that don't have good visual effects on them. If we're saying it's a fable or just like a dream of tomorrow, then there is kind of something interesting about how slovenly these choices are made, because in a fable that's like not fully formed, things just happen. People learn lessons in the end, and then like an inciting incident that you think should unravel in bigger ways just exists in this one space and doesn't have any impact. So when there's literal like cataclysmic events in this movie that you're like, this should shape the foundation of the film, it means nothing, and it just goes on to the next thing, which is fine, I guess. I'm not going to defend this work. Like, it's a mess, and it's not well executed, and I'll tell you this, like, some of the acting choices that these actors do, you're going to hear line deliveries that have never been said in a film before, and done in a way that's never been in a film before. But it's all purposeful, you know? It's like, well, we have to film this right now. We have the money to do this right now. Get these characters to say this thing. Even if it doesn't work 100% of the time, I think he's happy with the choices that are being made. So I can't fault him for that. This is an earnest film that is very certain of itself. Like, there's nothing about that upsets me. That's not the stuff that's bad. You know, like what it's trying to say. And we're talking an awful lot around what this film is about. When you have a project in development for 40 years, what does that look like? Well, it's sometime in a couple centuries from now, there is this city called New Rome, and you have the mayor who everyone is like against, and there's like someone vying for the throne that controls the banks, and his like nephew or like his grandson is like this architect who designs like the city of the future, this Megalopolis. This movie is about a guy trying to spend his entire life building Megalopolis, and that is Francis Ford Coppola. So I 100% think, you know, Caesar Catalina is his self-insert, if there ever was one for his career. Like a guy who is almost driven to the point of like sorrow because this thing that he wants to shape the world of cinema cannot be made. And it can in a time when it's already too late to shape the world of cinema. So that's a very specific thing to throw in there. He starts to develop a relationship with Nathalie Emmanuel. She's the daughter of the mayor, who's Giancarlo Esposito. And she kind of just like represents like, I guess, the future, where you can see like a new world arising. She's learning new things, wants to help like this creator build his tomorrow kind of stuff. And from there it's like family espionage and people going against each other, all to like the backdrop of like, what would a modern day Rome look like? We'd still have chariot races and gladiatorial stuff, but we're gonna have like USB drives and computers and old school television and just weird ideas of like a woman coming down from the heavens and being like a pure virgin for like men to bid on. And you're like, yeah, okay, I get it. You have some old school tendencies in your filmmaking. A young director isn't making this insanity, and I get that. We talk a lot about comic books on this channel, and one comic book that this really reminded me of is Frank Miller's Dark Knight 2, like The Dark Knight Strikes Again. It seems like you have something you're trying to say about like media and politics and how all of this is like being influenced and corrupting each other and never healing. And then some way through it, you just remember that you hate Donald Trump or you hate George Bush and you hate that 9/11 happened. So then Dark Knight Strikes Again gets derailed and Megalopolis gets derailed into like some weird political act. It's very weird, but I'm not against it. Like it's still what he wanted to make, just moderning up the politics a little bit to talk about what's happening right now. So in that aspect, I don't think it's like perfectly like a 40-year-old vision. It's more like, I know the base of what I'm doing. I can build from the ground up, much like a Megalopolis itself. I have the metal that I got from my dead wife, and I can manipulate it to be the city of tomorrow. That's what he can do. And he does. I mean, Adam Driver's the lead. He plays Caesar Catalina. He's really good at getting like these passion projects made for these old guys. He helped Terry Gilliam get his Don Quixote movie made. He helped Michael Mann get his Ferrari movie made. And now he's here with Francis Ford Coppola. So that's cool, you know, helping that guy make this weird thing. I don't think like an Adam Driver type was the original idea for this movie. Like, this could easily have gone to Dustin Hoffman, who was also in this movie, like back in the day when you made it back then. Look, Francis Ford Coppola, he's an old man. He's done terrible stuff to some of the actors on his movies. He also hired a bunch of people that I don't really want to acknowledge, but they are crucial to this film, so we have to bring them up a little bit. A lot of this movie centers around Shia LaBeouf, who is playing the worst person you've ever met, and that's probably not hard for him to perform. Jon Voight is also an old man who is, I guess, like the real-life Roman emperor or something. He's not the best, but is clearly like a senile Jon Voight, just like farting all the time, being insane. And that's a performance you live with, you know? Then I guess like the other big performance we have to talk about is Aubrey Plaza. She is WoW Platinum. It didn't work for me, but hey, that is a swing that few actors of her caliber or her generation would attempt. And I appreciate that effort. I appreciate the effort. Even if this is like, I hate to say that because that's practically what everyone's saying. As much as I don't like the movie, I'm glad it exists. I don't hate the movie. I don't like the movie. I think it's just a perfect example to me. To me, it's a perfect example of this is fascinating filmmaking. Like the story behind the scenes, the story on camera. This is the kind of thing I enjoy, which is just like something that challenges you and makes you sit down and just consider its existence. Like, Is this a fable about the Roman Empire, how we are always destined to be a society that's collapsing on itself and failing, even through times of like triumph and torment, we're going to get lost in our way? Is it a fable about love and how love can literally like build societies and change the world? Is it a fable about how time is always fleeting and we should cherish the small moments we have, just telling time to stop so we can be with the people that we appreciate and love? Or is it just about a city that's broken and a couple of architects trying to build shit? It's all those things, and it shows them in a very specific style that you should not show a normal person. Not that you have to be like a cinephile for this, but don't show this to like your coworker who watches like random shit, or like your family member who just watches Yellowstone or whatever. This is a movie you gotta show your friend that takes acid, or like your weed brother or something, just somebody who wants to think about stuff or experience it, because that's what this is. It's not sane, it's insane, and for that it's truly interesting and kind of cool. I will think about it for a while, and ultimately that's the reward of it. I think that's more what Coppola's looking for than having this actually be like a blockbuster hit. It was never gonna be that, and he knew that. I think in that sense it's a lot like Kevin Costner's Horizon, An American Saga. You have something you need to say, you want to show people how movies used to be made, you got to make it this way. And he made it the way he wanted, and Lionsgate put it out to some extent the way he wanted, and for that, I appreciate what it's doing. It does end on a hopeful note, which is surprising, and everything it attempted, I mean, you did it, you went for it, so that's kind of cool. But I will not sit here and tell you it's a coherent masterpiece or some underappreciated marvel of a film. It is slovenly, it is ugly, it is hard to follow, and it is a bore, and it is a long, dreary bore. Yet, the fact that I have been talking about it for like 20 minutes, I am not bored talking about it. I think the experience of communicating thoughts on this film are more interesting than the film itself. And that's kind of cool, because when I think about other movies that have come out around this time where I'm like, we don't make them like this anymore, a Beetlejuice, Wicked's coming out soon. Just films that, they're kind of different, but I don't know, they're just okay. This one's worse than those. I haven't seen Wicked, so I don't know. But it's kind of fun in a very stupid way. I don't know. There's something here, even if it's just like a fragment of like the Megalon, that's just the metal we used to build the future. There's kind of a fun niche to this thing, like having a weird conversation with like all the mayoral candidates on top of like a catwalk where your weird celebrity interviewer is like watching from the sidelines. That's interesting on a visual level, on a story level. But the editing, the pacing, and the acting really ruined that. Is it profound or deep? Maybe not. If you get that out of this, that's aces, man. That's pretty cool. Whew, I don't know. Look, I'll say this about it. You're never going to see another film like this in your lifetime. I don't think any director we see today is going to take a chance like this ever again. Just to literally have to stop filming a couple times because you run out of money, that is not something we see. And that is interesting in itself. And look, we're rambling on now for a while, so let's just talk about this too. The current state of filmmaking, like the fact that a guy like Francis Ford Coppola, who made the Godfather movies, can't get his dream project made for 40 years shows you that there is a problem with how this studio treats directors and creators and so many other people. It's a broken industry. This is a prime example of that, and I think what Coppola wants to say more than anything about the state of this industry is that it is still full of hope, and people will find ways to make it work. You just have to find your Megalon, have people help you get to that position, and you will be able to achieve your dreams, because the dream of a better tomorrow is possible. We all just have to work for it and get the powers that be out of here, like we did with the Romans, like we should be doing with some people in like this era. I think that's what he's trying to say. I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe he just likes seeing Shia LaBeouf be a freak and to seeing pretty girls dance and kiss each other. Hey, I get it, but I don't think that's the case either, because he did cast his granddaughter in the film. So, I mean, it's not all that. You can, like, look at boobies and still want to be a good grandpa. So, you know, healthy balance. Okay, let's get to the ranking. Where am I going to put this? Some people are going to give it 10s. Some people are going to give it 0s or 1s. I am literally going to give Megalopolis a 5 out of 10. Truly, deeply, madly, I think this is a fine film that is so middle of the road, I don't know where else to put it. So thank you all for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And of course, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun, stay safe, good